understanding the Trinity. So, when we understand duality and we understand the polarities, then we can start to understand the Trinity, which is a very different thing. Everything starts at the Godhead, and that shoots down to the Godhead inside each person's brain, which is the third part that unites the polarities. So, this is receptive. This is the Godhead. If you notice this, if you look on Google, you can see that this eye matches your pineal gland. So this is not by mistake. So here's the person on the ground. And then we have the Godhead sending down messages. So when you awaken, if you don't awaken the third eye, then you're stuck in a different consciousness. So at first you're going to come in and just be like, hey, this is me, there's only one voice. And then slowly you'll notice that you're conscious of another voice. And that voice is likely going to be the internal battle with your ego. And you're the discerner. You discern messages from the internal conversations. And now the conversation is coming from between these two. And that's a kind of duality, but it's a duality of the ego and the flesh. But then as you start to realize there's a conversation going on, then you can realize that there's actually a third thing. And it's sometimes hard to discern the difference between these two voices. So it still seems like it's still duality. However, there is two different voices coming, one for the flesh and one from the Creator or the Godhead. And then when you start to separate them, then it's like the angel and the devil on your shoulder. That's the Trinity, understanding the Trinity, and that it's a conversation between three. And once you open your third eye, that's when you start to separate these voices, and you realize that you're hearing three voices. And so that is the Trinity that is in a singular person. However, when you can actually do the Trinity on the ground in your relationships. So once you learn a relationship with yourself, that's starting to understand the voices, then you can understand two relationships. And then there's two people, and then these relationships can separate their polarities into the Trinity themselves. But then not only that, they realize that they're connected in a Trinity from, here's two people, this is a rock as a person, and this is another person. You even realize that you're connected by the Trinity above, which is the Godhead coming down and connecting to the two of you. And you start to realize that because you start to be very assertive with each other and create that trust of truth. And that creates the Trinity between three. And then when that happens, you can balance that, and then you can add a Trinity of a third person that comes in. And then you really have that conversation where you have somebody can always become the devil's advocate to help these two settle conflict, or vice versa. So this is how a powerful Trinity. So when these come naturally, though, so you don't want to force this. As soon as you're chasing the Trinity, you won't understand the Trinity. So it's about stillness and waiting for messages to come. And when you're chasing messages, you can assume it's probably the devil on your shoulder when you get them. When you're sitting still, you'll understand that it's probably divinity that is talking to you. And so that's the understanding of the Trinity. However, it spreads out into your community. So when you start to have somebody that is really in their power and their connection to their Godhead, they can expand to another, so a relationship, so another couple that's gotten their balance, or even if they're not balanced yet, this person can be the balancer for another relationship. So then you end up having, you start to build a web outwards. And so what this is a cultural and environmental lineage, right? It could be blood lineage too. However, people put too much weight into blood lineage and they don't realize that separates us. We're all from the same Godhead. And once we start to build communities outwards, like in a Trinity fashion, then we're spreading our knowledge outwards rather than family trees that are down and out. So in an evolutionary perspective, Trinity is going to build our evolution much faster rather than being in singular relationships and needing to hold these guys and your information from other people because you're so uneasy about being able to share even your couple with another person because of your insecurity that you won't share to the other world. And so you have to become secure in your thoughts so then you can share it with the world. And I believe that it shouldn't be shared down in a family tree. It should be shared outwards in the Trinity fashion. There's a triangle, another triangle comes out this way, vice versa, and it circles outwards. And this is how a community works. And that's why the Trinity is very important, and people should try to get to their highest consciousness, which would be understanding the Trinity.